have hidden these things from the wise and the intelligent and have revealed them to infants. Yes, Father, for such was your gracious will. All things have been handed over to me by my Father, and no one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and anyone to whom the Son chooses to reveal him. Come to me, all you that are weary and carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Good morning to all of you on this very warm Sunday morning, and thank you for being here. I had something prepared that I was going to read, but I want to share with you, I think, more a reflection from having been to Italy for the last 10 days, my second trip there, and having visited some of the places where some of our armed forces people are buried. And it's very much like being at the National Cemetery in Washington. But Marcia and I have traveled to Turkey together, and now recently to Italy, and we've been privileged to go to the cemeteries in both Turkey and in Italy. And this last verse, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. When I was in Italy this past time, we did go to a cemetery on one of our tours, and I left the bus and I went down into the cemetery, and it was row after row after row of white crosses. And I didn't get very far before I stopped and I turned into one aisle and I stopped at the first cross. And it was the cross of a soldier whose name I do not remember, but was from Connecticut. And I thought, oh my gosh, how to be so far away and yet be so close to someone who lives geographically close to me at home. And I couldn't help but reflect on being so far away from home and serving in a war. And it was just a bit overwhelming. And I stayed for a while and sat. The buses, gave us time to do these things. And then before I left, I just offered a prayer that God would continue to bless this soldier, whoever he was, and that he would continue to rest in peace. And I think part of what I get from this reading here is that we are all called and God allows us to rest in peace. We simply have to ask for his peace. We have to take it when he offers it. His yoke is easy most of the time and his burden is light, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes our yokes and our burdens are very, very heavy, and it's hard to know how to handle them and what way to handle them. But I couldn't help but reflect on all those gravestones and those crosses that we saw that day, the burden that was placed on each of them, and the willingness, I think, if not willingness, the fact that they answered a call and they went, was very, very moving. And so I leave you today with this message that though our yokes are not always easy and our burdens are not always light, God is always there. His peace that he gives us is always sustaining. It is always strong. Never fails us, even though there are times when we may not feel it at that immediate. But we certainly on this journey felt this as we traveled in a country that is a bit foreign to us, but particularly in the cemetery where these folks came far from home, and especially remembering too also, and I couldn't help but think of this as we were watching the celebrations for our 250th anniversary, the lives that have been given for us during these past 250 years. But we rest in the comfort that God is always there, that he makes our yoke easy, our burdens light, and whenever we need him to call upon him, he is always there, he will always answer, and and He will bring us back home, and He will bring us back